Video games need to be more accessible. More people need to be able to play them. How many times have we seen this sentiment? More than I can count, that's for sure. It is not without opposition. Accessibility and quality of life have become red flags for many, claiming that they make games easier or perhaps boring. Is accessibility really wrong? Are games actually wrong this time around? It's a complex issue, so let me explain. So, what is accessibility? In theory, would be the creation of options, so people with disabilities can play video game to the same extent that someone without said disabilities. Huh? How is that bad? How is that wrong? Nobody would oppose having the ability to remap your keys or even colorblind modes. And that is correct, because nobody is actually against those changes. They're truly helpful and don't really get in the way of gameplay. However, that's not how accessibility is employed right now. Do you see the spot here where they mention disabilities? Most sensible people will see this and think, oh, of course, physical and mental disabilities, arthritis, hearing impediments, the aforementioned colorblindness. That makes sense. Sadly, this is a clear case of doublespeak, as disability, meaning lack of ability, is also used to mean lack of skill. So, with this definition, you need to make games to be able to be completed by everybody, regardless of their skill. Sounds familiar? Now, we can tackle the actual problem that accessibility and the quality of life bring to the table. They directly affect the gameplay. They make games more convenient, a simplified mess. How do games work? Well, they throw you something. Situation, a scene, a problem, a puzzle, an event, and you have to overcome it, based on the mechanics of the game. Therefore, there must be win conditions. Sometimes several, sometimes only one. There must also be lose conditions. From being locked from progressing further to a game over screen. You're meant to win, but you must be able to lose. The idea is to find the quote-unquote path of actions that leads you to victory, while you avoid losing. Think of it as chess moves if you wish. And while using this comparison, now consider this. You're playing chess, but you can't lose. Or it is extremely difficult to lose. That doesn't sound like a really fun game, if you ask me. Sure, you're meant to win when you play video games. A single player was at least. But winning when you cannot lose is completely meaningless. And this is not even about difficulty. Doing puzzles or Sudoku is not necessarily difficult, but it is engaging. If they just completed themselves, pretty useless honestly. The engagement in games can be distilled into two main camps. Skill, usually meaning kinetic skill, but also game knowledge to some extent. There are things you know and can do on your own. And resources, anything that can be quantified in the game. Gear, consumables, stats, levels, HP and NP, you get it. Anything that has a number. Some games lean more into being skill-based, some others into resource-based. It is quite common for games to be a mix of both, balancing skill and resources, depending on needs or playstyle. But when everybody must be able to complete a game, regardless of their skill, then it's either skill or resources are completely out of the window. Struggles, limitations by design, having to think, no. God forbid people get mildly frustrated. That's not allowed. I mean, just take a look at this. Final Fantasy XVI has a ring that lets you auto-dodge. And sure, in some other Final Fantasy games you have really powerful accessories. The Seal Stride in Final Fantasy VI is a really good example of this, a relic that lets you cast magic for a single point of MP. Hey, you're also ignoring game mechanics, what is going on here? But there's a caveat. You need to find it, or you need to know where to steal it. This ring, you get it for free. Why? Honestly, I have no idea. Speaking of Final Fantasy, have you seen the new journalist mode in Final Fantasy VII Remake? Wow! Infinite HP and MP! Why? Congratulations! You cannot lose anymore? Why even have fights in an RPG? Why even bother playing at this point? But you know what's even worse? Paying for this convenience. How about spending $14 for 40 level ups for your characters in Tales of Games? How about spending $8 for 400,000 in-game currency? How about spending about $40 for an assortment of in-game obtainable items in Dragon's Dogma 2? Or paying $8 to access easy grind dungeons in the newly released Digimon story Time Stranger. We have pay to win in single player games now, for some reason. Pure insanity, yet customers allow it. And sure, I get it. There's always the same excuse. But who cares? It's just an option. You don't have to use it. Yeah, sure. But what if it's not an option anymore? Let's talk a little bit about Pokemon games, shall we? Not that they're any difficult anyway. Back in my day, only the Pokemon that actively participated in battle got a portion of the experience yield, or if they had the XP shard held item. Then, when Pokemon X and Y came around in 2013, a universal experience share was added as a key item. When active, each non-combatant would receive 50% of the experience yield. This potentially increases your EXP gain by 3.5 times. That's a huge increase! But to be fair, at this point, it was a toggleable option. Since Sword and Shield, this is just the way you gain experience now. It's not an option anymore. And it's not a problem, as long as the games are balanced towards that EXP curve. But they're not. Especially Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the Sinnoh remix. They got updated mechanics, but the same level curve. The solution from the devs? Just box your Pokemon, Lamau. Wow, thanks, that's so useful. Of course, if I'm complaining about ridiculous changes, I had to bring up the dreaded yellow paint. Look, we spent gallons of paint on the boxes, so now you know, you can break them. They're boxes, they're barrels, they're containers, they contain things. I've seen boxes before, I know how they work. If I get close to a box, I would expect to get an interaction prompt anyway. It'll be as easy as the playable character mentioning them the first time you get close to a box to running low on bullets. We find some in these boxes. And that's it! But now, player, come on, do the thing, break the yellow boxes, climb the yellow ladder, don't let me alone. I can appreciate linear progression, but how I handle it is my business. Also, why is it always yellow? There are other colors. Why can't you, the player, use paint yourself to mark things? That's actually more interesting. What about puzzles? Do you really expect to be able to explore rooms and engage with them? You wish. Look, a locked door. Why don't we interact with that mechanism to open it? Why don't you shut up? I just entered the room. I don't even know where I am yet. Let me look around first. But that's the thing. You're not allowed to think. You're not allowed to engage. You're not allowed to be creative. Because we can have thoughtful limitations or nuance. Because some people can't just be told no. They're tampering with progression. They're tampering with balance. They're tampering with inspiration. These are not games. These are the complete opposite. They're now making anti-games. I like video games. I've been a fan for decades. Therefore, I can fathom anybody playing these anti-games. They don't make for great video games. And they don't make for great movies either. It's just the worst of both worlds. You don't use game mechanics for your benefit anymore. You see the game mechanics, and you have to grapple with them constantly, so you can actually engage with the game. But sometimes they're even mandatory and detrimental. So yes, I need games to be inconvenient, so they can be engaging again. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise.